What's up, guys? This is Anthony with the RG Reviews, and what I got here for you today is a review on one of my favorite pieces. This is the Kel Tec p3at. Kel Tec, of course, is a company out of Cocoa Beach, Florida. Scott Kellgren is, I believe, the CEO of that company. He originally had his hand in designs such as the Intratec, Tech 9, and the Grendel P11, and a couple other weapons like that. And whereas maybe the Grendel and the Kel Tec or the Intratec Tech 9 don't have as good of reputations, the Kel Tecs, little Kel Tecs like this, have developed quite a good reputation, and in fact quite a large following. If you go to I think it's the KTOG, Kel Tec Owner Group .org, you'll see that there's quite a few posts, quite a few people really put their lives on this gun and really rely on it for bring them home safely and all this other stuff, from just basic day-to-day usage and whatnot. Also, a lot of officers I've heard are using this gun. Officers and someone told me FBI agents. I can't verify that 100%, but that a lot of people are using this gun as a backup gun. And really, you can't find a better gun for that. It's super thin. I mean, that is not going to print. If you have regular fitting jeans on and you throw this in your front pocket, no one's going to know that that's a pistol. Same thing goes with the spare magazine. You toss a spare magazine in your pocket, it basically looks like the outline of a lighter. So I mean, you pretty much take this gun anywhere you'd like to take it. These guns are pretty reliable. Of course, with almost any Kel Tec, they suggest that you use a break-in period and that you would run maybe 100 200 rounds through the gun before you ever consider it reliable enough to trust your life with. I did the same. I ran a break-in period through this gun, about 200 rounds of full metal jackets, various makes, and I had maybe I think 2 jams on the first and third magazine, and then it cleaned up. I never had a problem with it after that. Since then, I've run 3 or 4 different kinds of hollow points through the gun, and also some different kinds of full metal jackets, and I haven't had a problem since. And by this point, I pretty much consider this gun 100% reliable for me as a defensive piece. I carried this gun every day for about 1.5 years, almost 2 years, and absolutely loved it. I mean, I would literally forget that it was on me whatsoever. And I mean, a lot of people might say that about lightweight J-frames, or whatever gun it happens to be, some new light gun that they got coming out. And basically most of them, especially semi-autos, are going to be basically a rip-off from this gun, but they say they completely forget that they're carrying one. However, even the lightest, I think, of the J-frames is like 13 ounces, and then when you factor in that you're carrying 5 .38 special rounds, it's probably more on the lines of 15 ounces. So, which is the basic weight of, like, say, a Kel Tec P11, which I have here to show you in comparison in just a moment. But this gun, you literally forget it's even there. It's not uncomfortable to carry, even ankle holsters, which I can't stand. I can stomach carrying this in an ankle holster. It doesn't bother me at all. I actually use a little Phobos ankle holster, which does a pretty good job. So yeah, this is a gun that you can pretty much take anywhere. We're going to do a quick disassembly and reassembly of this gun, and I'm going to show you how easy this is to disassemble. With a gun like this, which is not your primary gun, the chances that you would have to disassemble and field strip the gun and maybe clear a stoppage, a bad stoppage or something, is probably a lot less than your primary gun. So I personally believe that your disassembly is not as important as it would be, say, if you were carrying a Glock 22. Disassembly is very important. Something could happen. You need to get it up and running while you're ducked behind a car or something like that. And with a gun like this, I don't think it's quite as important. But the disassembly is still pretty easy. You have a disassembly pin right here, and you're going to need some kind of tool, whether it be a knife, a key. Fingernails don't really work for me. They just break my fingernails, so I'm actually use the rim of a cartridge, which is in fact what Kel Tec suggests anyway. And you just put it behind that little pin and give it a twist, and it pops right out. Now the pin's going to come out, and what you're going to do is you're going to dry fire the weapon in a safe direction, and then the slide should come right off. So dry fire it, slide comes right off. Now before you put the gun down, try to put it back together and confuse yourself and wonder why you can't get your gun back together. This hammer actually has to be into the cocked position, which is actually kind of similar to a half cocked. It's not really all the way cocked, but it has to be into this rear position before you can reassemble your weapon. So that's the frame there. Of course, this is the slide. It does have a dual recoil springs and a steel guide rod, unlike a lot of the other guns which are using polymer guide rods today, which I don't really personally care because I've never had a problem with any guide rods in any of my guns at all. So a lot of them are polymer and I haven't had a problem, so I don't think it's a big issue. But a lot of people will appreciate the fact that it's a steel guide rod. Barrel comes out, and when you take out the barrel, you will start to realize why this gun is actually so light. The frame itself has just a small aluminum insert, and it weighs next to nothing. The barrel is a steel barrel, and it also weighs pretty much next to nothing. This is like the lightest barrel I've ever held in any firearm. You know, I had a Walther P22, and I may be wrong, but I think the barrel on the P22 is actually heavier than the barrel on this little p3at. So this attributes to its lightweight a lot. The slide is the heaviest part of the gun, just like it is on a lot of other polymer frame guns. And as you can see, there's a few machining marks, and Kel Tec is not known for putting a beautiful polish on all of their firearms. However, they are known for making firearms that are reliable and durable. And this gun has been exactly that for me. It's a nice slide. As you can see, the sights there are kind of crap. You have a little post, I guess, or whatever you'd call it, in the front, and then in the rear you have a notch that is machined into the slide itself. And the rear notch is kind of similar to the notch that you would find on like a J-frame, but maybe not quite as useful. But I don't really believe that you're going to be using the sights necessarily at all. I've tried to use the sights and they basically don't work. However, at close range, point shooting, this gun works just fine, and it's actually quite accurate. Go ahead and put the barrel back in as we reassemble the weapon. You're going to take the recoil guide rod, slide that in just like so, just like pretty much any other semi-automatic pistol, and then slide the slide onto the frame. Retract it just a little bit. You'll see that the guide rod is going to stick out just the slightest amount, and then this will allow you to put the pin back in, pop it in, clicks, and you're good to go. Retract the slide, and as you can see, it's good to go. So I'm going to talk about a couple accessories for the gun. And one of the best accessories, and I think actually the best accessory that I have for this firearm, is instead of your basic, let me show you, instead of your basic factory magazine, which holds 6 rounds, which is a good magazine, it's made by Metgar, which makes really good magazines, but it's a flush mounted magazine, and I have large hands, so when I carry this gun, I'm really only getting one finger on the grip, if you can see that. And this other finger, where it does just barely grab a hold of the base plate of the magazine, when you fire the gun and the gun recoils, and it does have a good deal of muzzle flip to it, my finger is just sliding off, and I'm basically only holding on to the gun with my thumb and my middle finger, which I just didn't feel comfortable firing the gun like that. So I went looking around, and on Kel Tec's website, and also I think a different website, I found these little magazine extenders, and this actually adds 1 round to your magazine capacity. A lot of people say that they don't, and 90% of the time that's because they have this little elbow right here they have on the inside of the magazine instead of on the outside. It's intended to be on the outside, and that way you can actually load the full magazine capacity, which is 7 now with this add-on. But with the magazine and the little add-on like that, I actually have a full 2-finger grip on it, which is similar to what you'll get with maybe a J-frame or also a Glock 26. So I have a full grip on this gun now. I don't need my pinky to grab a hold of it. This is plenty solid just the way it is. And with this, I have a good solid grip to it, and I actually feel a lot more comfortable firing this gun with this magazine in it than I do with this magazine. But in a last-ditch effort to have a good backup magazine, I could use this one if I had to. It just would not be in the gun as I carry it. As far as other accessories, I've seen a couple of other ones, like they have a belt clip that you can mount to the side of the frame, and I've heard that that's pretty good. I have one for my P11, and I was stupid enough to put it on there and start shooting it without Loctiting it, and after the first magazine, one of the pins and the screws worked its way out, and I had lost it somewhere on the range, so I have to go get another screw and another pin for that before I can put it back on. But I kind of like the concept, but I don't want to overcomplicate things. I don't want to have it on there, and if I ever decide to use it as a holster, like in my ankle holster, I pretty much have to take that out for it to fit into the ankle holster, which I don't want to have to do a whole bunch of disassembly or reassembly, taking the pins out and all this just to get it to fit in. So I'll just leave it the way it is. A couple issues that I found with the gun, and these are minor issues, The first thing, of course, is the fact that it does not have a slide lock, which I don't personally care. If I fire through an entire magazine and I hear the click, all that does is tell me that I need to change my magazine, just like it is with an AK-47 or a couple other guns that do not have last shot hold opens, and it's not a big deal to me, and never really has. Another issue that I have with the gun is that this magazine release is very easy to depress. It's very light, and it's sticking right there by where if you stick your finger all the way through, and by the way, the gun of course is empty, but if I stick my finger all the way through and pull back on the trigger, I bump it with my trigger finger, which, you know, doesn't happen all the time, but it has happened a couple times, and what can happen a couple times will happen when you don't want it to. So I had to figure a way to get rid of that, which of course is just like it should be fired in the first place, is using the pad on the index finger instead of putting your finger all the way through. Another issue I was having is that sometimes I keep my thumbs, usually on a full-size pistol, I keep my thumbs down and in contact with my middle finger. And what that was doing is I was hitting the magazine this way too. So I was actually getting all kinds of stoppages that were not the guns, that were not stoppages because of the gun, that were stoppages because I was dropping the magazine, which was my fault. And so I figured a way to fix that is, in order to get a better grip, because it does have a lot of snap to it, I decided that I would go ahead and put my thumb right like this over the trigger guard of the firearm and cut my hand like so, and then I would press my palm closer to my hand and lock this gun into my hand, and by doing that it makes it so that my thumb cannot get down to the magazine release. So there's no way I'm going to drop this magazine like so, and it also forces me to keep the pad of my finger on the trigger instead of pulling my whole finger through anyway, or using the power crease. So by doing so, it made it so I haven't had any stoppages after that, and I don't have any problem firing the gun. And it's actually a lot more comfortable to fire like this for me, being such a small gun and I having such large hands, that, you know, it just works out for me. This gun is something that pretty much anybody can afford, which is one of the reasons that we're reviewing it. This gun cost me $300 and I paid too much for it. So basically lets you know that this is a gun that pretty much anyone can afford. I found them for as low as $240, and I found them for $255, $260 brand new. It's a great deal for a firearm that's going to be reliable and it's going to do what you want it to do. That you just really can't beat it. When you're talking about your standard magazine capacity being 6 rounds of 380, and with today's loadings, 380 is really not that bad of a round, especially for a backup piece. You got 6 rounds. Of course, the gun only comes with 1 magazine, so you will probably want to buy another magazine. It's always good to have an extra backup plan just in case, and that's what I did. If I were to recommend any of Kel Tec's guns to somebody who is looking for a just a defensive piece, and I know there's a big issue with the 380, 9mm, 40, 45. I think 380 is a pretty decent round. It's probably the smallest that I would feel comfortable carrying, but this is the gun that I would recommend. Maybe the next one after that would be a PF9, just because it is also slim and lightweight. But this is about as good as you're going to get. Any woman could carry this, even a very small purse. A man can carry this, front pocket, back pocket, cargo pocket, shirt pocket, coat pocket, whatever you want to put it in. This is going to work. Ankle holsters work pretty well too. Another thing that I like about this is, you know, your watch pocket and your favorite jeans. Something is that I'm sure they didn't design it that way, but this dimension right here and the width on almost all of my jeans fits perfectly into the 5th pocket or watch pocket on my jeans. So that actually makes like a really sweet little holster, and I carry it towards, if I'm standing in front of you, I carry it towards the butt of the gun is facing left. So it almost forces me to draw left-handed, which I would rather actually do than draw it right-handed, just in case something were to happen to my right hand. Usually, it's been my experience in life that bad things happen to the side of my body that I use the most, so it's pretty good to have it pointed towards the left. But yeah, this is a great gun. If I were going to recommend any gun, this would be it, and for all the reasons I've listed and for more that I probably will never think of. But this is a gun with a lot of virtues. It's a gun that's going to do you good, and it's also a gun that you're not going to feel burdened by carrying it every day. I really wish that more people would start carrying, firearms, getting their concealed carry licenses, because I personally believe that it makes a much safer country for all of us. And yeah, that's just my little 2 cents. I appreciate you guys watching the review. I hope that you enjoyed the review on this firearm that I love so much, and I hope y'all have a great day. Take it easy.